Rant time. I want to talk about the Jamstack survey. Why do I want to talk about the Jamstack survey? Well, the results this year were very interesting, and I think we can get a lot from them. So, Jamstack developer survey. Every year, Netlify and a more general crew around them run a survey around the Jamstack and web dev experience. And a lot of people see this. It gets around pretty far. I don't know if they said how many people filled it out anywhere on here. Oh, a little under 7,000 responses. So yeah, 7,000 developers were surveyed and gave their thoughts here. I actually really like the way they formulate their questions and also the way they show the responses here. And there are some things here that are very interesting. One of them is this massive bump in the developers who consider themselves full stack. That is massive from 2021 to 2022. We're seeing way more developers moving towards full stack. And there's a similar, almost identical drop from front end as well. This is awesome. I am so hyped to see more and more people realizing that front end and back end aren't much scarier than each other. And you can bridge that gap more and more every year. Super cool to see that. Also, 50% increase in content producers from 2% to 3%, but still nice to see. Employment status. This one was interesting to me that half of the survey takers were full-time and the rest were all sorts of other things. This was fascinating. Experience over time. This one was interesting too, specifically that there's a huge bump in 15 plus years of experience this year. I don't know if this is just where the surveys were being shared, if this ended up more on Hacker News than Twitter or wherever else, but this one, I don't take too much meaning from that chart. This one's kind of cool. It shows the by region experience amounts, but it doesn't break that down on a more overall. So it's hard to know how relevant those numbers are. Oh, actually it does that right here. But regardless, great resignation. This was interesting. I think I would have asked more than just the last 12 months or not asked to change jobs, but got a new job in the last 12 months. But still super interesting to see 33% of people who did the survey that have a job change jobs within the last year. Why people stay was kind of boring. The remote work, this one blew me away. What percentage of time do you work remotely? Over half of respondents were 90% or more remote work. That is nuts. That is nuts. We are now fully in a remote work world for software dev at the very least. And if we go down to this chart, I enjoy remote work, strongly agree or somewhat agree is the vast majority of the response. About 13%, 14 actually, I can do math, percent, neither are neutral to disagree. Only 7% of respondents do not like remote work. Also, more people than I thought have figured out remote work, which was cool to see too. And obviously I would quit my job if they made me work remotely more often, or I'd quit my job if they made me work remote more often is almost entirely a no. And I would quit my job if they made me work in person more often is majority yes. Super interesting. It seems because I've heard a lot of people saying that people don't like over remote work that much. Clearly they do, at least in this space. Super interesting to see that there is such a strong positive sentiment towards remote work in a survey like this. There are obviously biases to be accounted for there, but it is an important thing to understand. This was an interesting question. It's what are people building? I don't care too much. This one was fun, seeing that edge dynamic is still a big chunk of none, but a lot of people have played with it now. I don't really like this visualization. It's hard to compare the different things. This was interesting. What device types are you targeting? It's weird seeing tablets so close to phones because I don't target tablets for shit. I don't know many people who do. Also interesting seeing device-specific browsers 50% bumping every year. This is a space to watch things like Apple TV or random devices for payment management in person, just all sorts of things that can run the web and have weird browsers built in. Audience sizes. This one is actually really interesting. How many users are going to use the things that you're building? It was interesting seeing that there isn't really a change or a significant change year over year, but the comparison of 83 to 75% are building things for thousands of users, all the way down to 55% for hundreds of thousands, down to 36% for millions. These are very different areas, tens of users, hundreds, thousands, or hundreds of thousands and millions. These are very different products, projects, companies, and ways of building. It's interesting seeing how it's a decently wide spectrum. Obviously, from the thousands up, it dips quick. But yeah, I was fascinated by that. Anyways, here's what we're really here for. Here is where things get juicy. There is a part of how they do this diagram that I absolutely love and wish I saw more of. A common problem I have with conversations around satisfaction of new technologies is that they're comparing to the satisfaction of old technologies. The difference between a new technology and an old technology is very often that people choose to use the new technology and people didn't choose to pick the old one. The average Svelte developer is a Svelte enthusiast. They love Svelte. They've looked into Svelte. They understand Svelte. They decided they want to use it because it solves problems they have, and they're using it. The average React developer works at a company that's been using React for years, and they had nothing to do with that decision. Because of that, the majority of React users are not necessarily people fond of React, whereas the majority of Vue users, that's not true for Vue, Vue is pretty well adopted, but the majority of Svelte users, Solid users, even things like Astro, those users are going to be happier by default because those users picked that technology versus something like WordPress, where nobody picked WordPress. It's just the thing that was there. And I really like how they put the amount of use against the satisfaction score so that we can reasonably discuss how well adopted this thing is compared to the satisfaction. So you can see here that Sanity is doing surprisingly well. And honestly, seeing this is why I want to look into Sanity. The max is 5, I'm almost positive. Then this one's 10, actually. Maybe this one was 10, but everyone hates all of these. Yeah, that's funny because it seems the others are out of 10 and this one seems to be out of 5, but I'm guessing that they're all out of 10. Interesting. It's not a number based on like a thing they picked 1 to 5. It's they want to use it more or they want to use it less. Anyways, this one was interesting. Wait, no, did I skip frameworks? No, I didn't. Cool. This is programming languages. This one was interesting because there's one very significant outlier here. TypeScript. It is absurd that TypeScript is this well adopted. It's weird that it's so close to SQL, but it is absurd that it is so well adopted and so well loved. That satisfaction score is absurd. TypeScript has just destroyed everything. TypeScript, everyone loves it. Weird because it's so well adopted and it hasn't seen a satisfaction dip. So that's really cool. Then web frameworks. Here's the fun one. As you can see, React falls here within my theory of the more adopted it is, the more likely it is to be hated because people aren't choosing it. They're stuck with it. So here we see React. It's pretty painful. It's also a funny placement for Vite in here. I believe they even said that Vite shouldn't have been here. Yeah. Framework data. Vite is more of a bundler, competing choices. It's been adopted as a default bundler for several other frameworks. Yeah. It's weird that Vite's in here, but also like it's a starting point people often pick. So yeah, that's why that is so high because people who are picking it, like it's not supposed to be in this section, but they put it in anyways. So even though it still hits a crazy number with 30%, the satisfaction's absurd. It's funny because like Vue and Vite are similarly adopted and you can see the difference in satisfaction there. That's absurd. And jQuery people do not like anymore. Next.js people are still pretty cool with. I think it's fallen a decent bit, but it's still in a decent enough spot. Express is around still. Gatsby's fallen hard. Nuxt is doing really well, actually. It's like trailing Vue for satisfaction, which is nice. I'm actually surprised that Nuxt satisfaction's less than Next. That's a little surprising to me. Might be because of the delays for V3, but I'm curious. I'd love to talk some more Nuxt devs and see how they're feeling. Obviously, Angular, no one gives a shit about. 11T's, really high satisfaction, cool to see. Svelte, similarly, really high. Svelte kit's lower. I'm guessing a lot of that's from the API thrash and lack of shipping. Astro's super high too, especially for I guess especially for low doesn't make sense, but it's nice to see that their satisfaction is really high. Zooming in on smaller frameworks. This is a cool idea. Looking at things that didn't like get as much attention and taking a closer look at it. Really interesting seeing Blitz satisfaction all the way up at a 3 now. Good for them. I know they've been working hard. Oh, wow. That's very interesting. Blitz and Redwood are like tied. I'm excited to get Create T3 app thrown into this. I think next year, Create T3 app should be in this, and I'm really curious to see how it places. Frameworks 1 year in. This is interesting. This is by the 1 year change. So this is how much did satisfaction change. Both Redwood and Blitz had the biggest boost without having a big usage change. Veet's usage went up a whole bunch without satisfaction changing much because it was already such a high satisfaction. jQuery went down a bunch. Vue went down a bunch in multiple regards. That's interesting. Nuxt went down a bunch of satisfaction. I'm so curious what happened with Nuxt and the satisfaction stuff. Also, Next went down similarly far, but its use is still going up. I'm so confused. Anyways, emerging trends. This one was interesting, the Web3 stuff. I did not know the sentiment was so split. It's like a third negative, a third neutral, and then a third positive. Slightly higher negative. It's like 40% negative, roughly, and then 30% everything else. And then web components. I don't care about web components. Oh, and then this hurt a little bit. I was hoping to see more serverless here. I mean, I guess it's only like 30% haven't used serverless, but 70% have. I feel like I'd be between these two. I'm pretty close to all, but yeah, I'd hope everybody here. Actually, let's poll our audience. Cool. Let's see how we compare. And that's the last one. Interesting. I thought our numbers would look different. It's surprised to see the 32% have said no. I'm sure this is some amount of trolls. It's a fair point. Nope is 40%. Jeez. I'm disappointed, y'all. Supposed to have more serverless users here, not less. We're going to have to do more serverless rants at this rate.